You move mountains. You cause walls to fall with your power. You perform miracles. There is nothing that's impossible. And we're standing here only because you made. Standing here, come on, not knowing how we'll get through this test. No, no, holding on to faith you know best. And nothing can catch you by surprise. You got this figured out. You're watching us, and now, when it looks as if we can't win, you wrapped us in your arms and stepped in. And everything we need you supply. You got this in control, and now we know that you made a way. When our backs were against the wall and it looked as if it was over, you made a way. And we're standing here only because you made a way.
Over 115,000 people have died, and yet he's kept you alive. He kept you alive because there's still purpose in you, still greatness in you, still an assignment that you have to complete. And I'm believing that the rest of your life is going to be the best of your life. I'm glad that you've tuned in on today, because I believe that God has something that's going to inspire you, encourage you, equip you, and empower you. All I'm asking is that you'll text somebody, tag somebody, tell somebody that we're live right now, because we want to watch God move mountains and make walls fall. Whatever you do, stay tuned, because the best is yet to come.
Hey, you move a mountain. You cause the walls to fall with your power. You perform miracles. There is nothing that's impossible. And we're standing here only because you move mountains. Hey, you cause walls. Hey, what's he gonna do, y'all? His name has power. You need to declare this. Hey, your name has power. Your name has power. Your name has power. And you're always making a way. All right, I taught it to you. Now why don't you sing it on back and start worshiping with us? Come on, everybody. Raise your voice, say it. Your name has power. Your name has power. Your name has power. Always making a. You keep on doing it. You keep on doing it. You keep on doing it. Late in the midnight hour, God's gonna turn it around. It's gonna work in your favor. Everybody say late in the midnight. God's gonna turn it around. It's gonna work. One more time, late. God's gonna. It's gonna work. 'Cause you move mountains, you cause walls to fall with your power. You perform miracles. There is nothing that's impossible. And we're standing here only because the Lord made a way.
We are evident that the Lord is still making a way. Even on a Tuesday, you should have a testimony about how God's grace has been more than sufficient. Yesterday, thousands converged onto the capital of Georgia to demand that there would be some reform and some change, not of any symbolic, but really of substantive. Where we are in this tick of the watch is shifting from protest to policy. I keep saying over and over and over again that Martin Luther King Jr., who is my hero, would really be incomplete if it were not for Thurgood Marshall. It wasn't just the speeches that made the difference, but somebody had to argue the case for us to get to the next level. And where it is that we are evolving in this whole Black Lives Matter movement is going from protests to policy. My next guest is my Morehouse big brother. He has led me in several different ways that he doesn't even realize. He was our leader of chapel assistants while I was a student there. He was the remarkable pastor of Douglas Memorial in Baltimore and then relocated to Atlanta. I had no idea I would be following his footsteps and coming right down the same pike. I am grateful for him. Dr. Warnock is the esteemed and capable pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church, historic Ebenezer Baptist Church. I was there for King Holiday, and one of his deacons said something that really just shook me to my core that I hadn't thought about but couldn't refute. Most famous Baptist church in the world. I had never heard of that until that moment, and then I thought about it. Absolutely so. He is also has lent himself to be a voice for the voiceless, to be, as Adam Clayton Powell was referred to, as a lion in the lobby. He is currently leading to become the next black senator from Georgia, but in the United States. We're proud of him and excited for his mind and all the more for his heart. Reverend Warnock, thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to be here with you.
I'm glad to have you. I want you to help us unpack, because there's a whole lot going on. There's been 17 days of protests, and in those 17 days, Senator Kamala Harris has been pushing forward to make lynching illegal. Senator Booker has been moving to make sure that national police reform is shifted. Our own mayor, 24 hours ago, Keisha Bottoms, has signed an executive order that what it is that President Obama offered would be now the litmus test for Atlanta Police Department. I want you to help us, because we've got 2 generations now who are leaning in, watching. How critical is legislation in this movement?
Sure. Thank you so very much, first of all, for having me. This is a moral moment in America. We are at another crossroads in American history.
Wow.
And we've got to decide, what direction do we want to go in?
Yeah.
You know, Dr. King was focused on public policy.
Yeah.
He was focused on the work of civil rights, and through his work, we passed a civil rights bill in 1964. We passed a voting rights bill in 1965. We passed housing reform. But behind all of that, and we should talk about the policy, but behind all of that, it strikes me that the mantra and the motto of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which was his organization, was not to end segregation, although he was focused on that, not to bring voting rights, focused on that, but to redeem the soul of America.
Wow. Wow.
And that's the moment that we're in, that we've got to come to grips with the character of the country and the soul of our nation. And the gospel litmus test for that is how you treat the most marginalized members of the human family. Jesus said, if you do it to them, you've done it to me.
Wow.
If you shoot somebody in the back because of the color of their skin, then I am in solidarity with those who struggle. And so we certainly got to push this public policy conversation. You know, and you and I have known each other since we were teenagers.
Right.
Rodney King happened while we were in college.
Yes.
And I think you were among the student activists responding. By that time, I'd gone to seminary, was in New York at Union. But then in 1999, the first time I got arrested in an act of civil disobedience. And you can't be afraid to get arrested if you're going to be the pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, right? It's an occupational hazard. But the first time I got arrested, Reverend, in an act of civil disobedience, it was in response to the police killing of an African immigrant named Amadou Diallo.
Wow.
Shot 19 times, reaching for his wallet on his own stoop in New York City.
Right.
So we've been dealing, that was 1999. Rodney King was 30 years ago.
Right.
And so now we've got adults in the street who don't even remember those incidents fighting this same thing. So let me say, in terms of policy, and we can talk about it, the thing that I'm not hearing enough of is this whole issue of mass incarceration. Police brutality is a consequence of a decision that our country made 40 years ago, when little by little, year by year, we have become the largest prison industrial complex in the world. Nobody even comes close. The United States of America, 5% of the world's population, we warehouse 25% of the world's prisoners.
Wow.
Over half of them, they're African Americans. They're there largely for nonviolent, drug-related offenses. And so I submit that if you build a beast that size, a massive prison industrial complex, that beast has got to eat.
Right.
And this beast feeds on black and brown bodies. And until we as a country decide to disentangle ourselves from the mistake of mass incarceration, tragically, we're going to see these escalations on the street, and we're going to see these incidents over and over again. So we've got to disinvest in prisons and put more money in preschools. We've got to stop emphasizing the back end and deal with the front end.
We're walking this tightrope between baby boomers and millennials.
What's our generation?
How do we bring 2 different generations of activism together in this moment?
I think part of what we've got to do as the church is remember what the church is all about. And for me, the church is about creating a space for human flourishing. For me, the gospel literally is about liberation. Jesus, after all, in his very first public sermon, laid out his platform for public ministry. when he read from the book of Isaiah, where he said that the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to preach good news to the poor.
Wow.
To open the eyes of the blind, to set the captives free, to preach the year of the Lord's freedom. For me, the test of the credibility of what we say on Sunday is what we do Sunday through Saturday. So we've got to stand on the side of the poor, the oppressed, those who are held captive, those who are held in bondage. And I'm encouraged in this moment because there's a generation that's pouring out into the streets, a broad, multiracial coalition of conscience, saying that America can be better than this. And that's the heritage of the churches that you and I came from. You are the son, grandson of AME preachers, the AME church, Black Baptist churches. And when we say the Black church, we've never meant anything racially exclusive. We're talking about the anti-slavery churches. Our churches were literally born fighting for freedom. They were born to correct an American heresy that sought to reconcile the irreconcilable, slavery and Christian faith. Wow. And we said that you can't reconcile those two things, and Dr. King came out of that tradition. He's not a singular genius who came out of nowhere. He came out of the tradition of these AME preachers and these Baptist preachers who were calling the church to be the church. And in a moment like this, the church needs to stand up. If we don't speak in a moment like this, we don't have a right to call the name of our Christ.
Wow. What is our first step to navigating back to that space? In the last 72 hours, we've had white evangelicals who have made humongous missteps in their calculation of the moment that has left them really hemorrhaging. And this is in an hour, Dr. Warnock, where we have seen more ethnicities on the front line than we have ever seen in modern history. And so we're going back to blindly a segregated hour because of headship, not because of what we both saw yesterday was Latino brothers and sisters, Caucasian, Asian, were all out there, but we're hearing titler heads shoot themselves in the foot with a Uzi because of a doctrine that has completely been outdated.
Well, the Black church was born to correct that heresy. And look, slavery would not have lasted as long as it did were it not for the church. Segregation, the same thing. The good side of that is there's another tradition. I'm running for the United States Senate. The first Black United States Senator was a preacher. AME preacher named Hiram Revels. I'm standing in his footsteps, carrying out that tradition so that we might preach freedom to the oppressed.
What did you say to those who say, well, Pastor, those two lines shouldn't be blurred?
They should read the gospel. They should read the gospel. You know, Exodus chapter 3, when God shows up and talks to Moses, he says, I've seen the misery of my people. I've heard their cry on account of their taskmasters. I know their sufferings, and I've come to deliver them into a good and spacious land. In other words, I came to deliver them into a place where finally they can breathe.
I love it. How can people find out about your campaign and the work that you're doing?
Thank you for asking. Go to Warnock for Georgia. One word, Warnock for Georgia, spelled completely out.com. And I'm running, but it's my faith that's driven me into this candidacy.
I want you to know my dad is your biggest fan.
Well, I love your dad. He's amazing.
He's cheering for you behind your back. I hope
Hello, Bishop Bryant.
Absolutely, and all of us are. This is a critical moment. I said on yesterday, we can't just rally, can't just march, can't just protest. It is so important that we're all registered to vote, that your vote is your voice. We've had some missteps here in Georgia, but we're believing through hard work, determination, and strong voices like Dr. Warnock, all of the chinks in the armor are going to be fixed by November. I want you to challenge every person who's bemoaning the issues of the hour, giving critique of what's taking place. Ask them before they say another word, are you registered to vote? Because so much has been laid in the foundation for this hour. Dr. Warnock, I'm praying for you.
Thank you, man.
I'm praying for what it is that you're endeavoring to do, and know that I'm with you 1,000%, and I'm believing the body of Christ is going to be praying for you.
Let's vote. A vote is a prayer for the kind of world we want to see.
I love it. Jonathan and Tiffany.
There are many people that are hurting in this world. It's a lot going on in our world, and we want to encourage you. You got to survive. You have to survive. You have to survive. We're praying for our brothers and our sisters all around the world. Your life matters. Your life matters. Your life matters. Don't be discouraged. Your life matters. My brother, my sister, I need you to survive. I need you. Help me say it. You need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me. Agree with me. Agree with me. We're all a part of God's body. It is His will. It is His will. That every need be supplied. Please hear us say it. You are important to me. And I need you to survive. I need you to survive. Come on, I need you. Say it again. I need you. You need. We're all a part. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me. Stand with me. Why don't you agree with me? Agree with me. We're all a part of God. That's it, that's it. It is that every need be supplied. You are important to me. You are important. And I need you. I need you to survive. I pray for you. You pray for me. Say it. I love you. I need you to survive, and I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you. I need. Let's get it on, even in your homes. Everybody say it. I pray for my brother. I pray. My sister. I pray. I need you. Don't give up. Don't give up. I won't harm with words from my mouth. 'Cause I love you. I need you to survive. It is His will that every need be supplied. I need you to survive. Don't give up, my brother. Don't give up, my sister. I know it's a little rough right now, but I need you to survive. I need you to survive. Just stay in the race. Stay in the race. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. Don't throw in the towel. Just one more time, say, I need you to survive.
Maya Angelou said that to survive is elegance. To thrive is a part of life. All of us are in an elegant existence just to be able to survive white supremacy, aggressive policing, and even a despotic presidential administration. The grace of God has fought through with all that we've had to contend with. For you to have a modicum of sanity is a gift even unto itself. The old civil rights advocates used to declare that freedom ain't free. There is a price to our freedom. I want you to help us to liberate, to free, and to emancipate so many who find themselves in what George G.M. James called psychological slavery, just by knowing that the church is a part of the conversation and a part of the dialogue. I want to challenge every single one of you watching on tonight to sow a seed for the furtherance of our ministry. Weekly, we are feeding thousands of people. Just on this last Saturday, some 8,000 people. Next week, we'll be administering COVID-19 tests once and again, and we'll be doing it free of charge. Help us to do the work of ministry. It's beyond just singing and preaching, but our works have got to speak louder than our words. The two gentlemen who now join me are really God's messengers and ambassadors in the marketplace. I'm grateful for both of them. Chris Stewart, many of you are familiar with, is a vanguard following in the tradition of great voices before him, like Charles Hamilton Houston, Thurgood Marshall. Representing Walter Scott, who all of us remember was brazenly shot in the back. You remember Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge. He also helped give justice to that family, as well as my dear brother Justin Miller, who is also my Morehouse brother, our second guest in a row from Morehouse, is representing strong and is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi. He can do no wrong in my eyesight. But both of these gentlemen have been on the front line. I watched them on the news late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, and just to hear their passion for a brother who was killed in the drive-thru of Wendy's restaurant on the way to see his daughter for her 8th birthday party, really shivered me down my spine. I'm grateful for both of them, that we have voices in our community and in our generation that we can count on. We thank God for both of them. Thank you, gentlemen, for hanging out with us this afternoon. I know you're being pulled everywhere, and you got to be sleepless in Seattle since Saturday. I want you, for those, we're being broadcast literally all over the world, in UK, throughout Africa, in the Caribbean. I want you to talk about our dear departed brother, Rashad, and what happened on Saturday night and where we are on Tuesday.
Yeah, well, what happened was what we see all too often. Yeah. And what I meant at the press conference, what we're going to be representing in a few months. Yeah. Or a few weeks if policing doesn't change.
Yes.
It was a small interaction that was positive, that suddenly escalated because of the mentality that that officer had when it comes to Black lives.
Yes.
He could just shoot. And if you watch all of the videotape afterwards, there was no remorse.
Yes.
We watched all of the body cam. He didn't cry. He didn't get upset. He went on with his life. And that was the heartbreaking part.
Yeah.
I think one of the main things that we see now with all these cases is that America is not America for all Americans.
Wow.
It is for some, but it's not for us. And so with this case, we are seeing, what policing looks like for Black Americans and how white police and sometimes even Black police view us in our own communities.
I want you to, what I keep hearing in underground conversations is not about individuals, it's about the culture of policing. So it's not cherry picking 4 officers in Minneapolis or 1 down in Brunswick or 1 here in Atlanta. I want you to talk about, just from you all's experience of really crisscrossing the country, what do we have to do about the culture of policing?
That's the true problem. I mean, we can all put out policies and new regulations, but if you don't change the mindset and the initial training that they're put through just in the streets, then it's not going to change. I mean, I've had cases where an officer was taught to act one way on the white side of town.
Wow.
And talk to people a certain way. But on the other side of town, you are more aggressive. Right. And more in people's face. And he was a rookie, learning that from superiors' behaviors.
Right.
So that little type of behavior keeps going on, or throwing an extra punch or kick on somebody and never getting in trouble. Now you can taser someone, and then it leads to shooting someone.
Right.
So it's steps.
And it starts with community contacts for these police officers. If they don't know the people in the community that they're policing, they don't go to church with them and go to school with them and see them at the gym, then when they see them in the street and something's going on, they don't know how to interact with that person. They don't know that this is, Joe from down the block.
Right.
They just view Joe and treat him as a threat. And stuff like this happens, unfortunately.
I saw a meme earlier today on social media that said, imagine you killing somebody at your job, and the worst thing that happens to you is losing your job.
Yeah.
If you lose it. Yes, if you lose it, which is absolutely unfathomable. I want you all to help walk through. We've got millions of lay people. What does it mean, this new rallying cry of defunding the police? What does that mean?
And that's where there's a lot of confusion. Yes. It doesn't mean get rid of all police, like they just magically disappear, your area won't have policing. It's really reallocation of some of these monumental, massive $100 million budgets into different areas. So I don't even really use the term defunding. Mine is more reforming the police, or evolving how policing is done, which is why in policing, you need a unit there that responds to mental health crisis.
Right.
To someone's intoxicated, to domestic calls, not armed officers with guns and shotguns and ARs. You need a whole unit that just does that. And that would be part of that, reforming with a reallocation of money.
And right now, all police are trained the same. And that's a big problem. So if you have somebody like Mr. Brooks, who's in the Wendy's parking lot asleep, they're going to call the same unit that they call for somebody with the AK-47 down the block.
Wow. Wow.
That is going to lead to issues because you don't need a sledgehammer to kill a snail.
There's another conversation I need you all to unpack about police officers having to pay their own insurance. That would make it a major monumental shift as opposed to the state or the city or the county doing it, because really they're being able to go scot-free. What is you all's thoughts on that?
Well, the real protection is the union. The police unions make all the decisions. They make all the protections. They call the union rep as soon as something happens. In this incident from Saturday, they're on film immediately calling their union rep. And most officers, even if they tried to make them pay their insurance, make $40,000, $50,000. So they would probably do like a lot of us, just not get insurance and be uninsured. The real way to fix that, though, is or say so when something happens. If you kill someone, you go to jail like regular people, and your lawyer needs to fight it to get you out, not a cooling off period. They don't have to give a statement for days.
Wow.
So the system is set up so this continues.
What do we do? Because I've been on this trail since Trayvon Martin in Sanford, Florida, and I see the same cycle. And my concern, transparently, is we seemingly as a community have ADD to these issues. 2 weeks ago, we were all jogging for a mod. Now nobody running. And so what do you all as attorneys need those of us on the street to do in order to keep advancing the cause?
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. We have to continue to fight. So the people on the street, fight in your own way. Everybody's not an attorney, as you said. But in your pulpit, you can tell the membership, hey, this is what you need to do. If you are a teacher, you can teach to your students, hey, this is what needs to happen. Anybody, anywhere can fight for this cause. But we all have to be fighting and all continue to fight for real change to happen. Like you said, this thing will fall off if we don't all continue and keep beating on it.
I mean, and it's a fight that companies can take also.
Wow.
We sat and talked to Microsoft.
Yes.
Executives, a lot of their Black executives and teams, and we tried to teach a company what they could do to get in the fight because they wanted to help.
Yes.
Which I was really shocked by, is that so many people are actually for once asking, what can we do? And that's why I'm not going to lose faith or lose hope that this is the time where it changes.
I want you to give us a crash course, both of you. The secret weapon of millennials in this hour is their cell phones. And much of what we have seen over the last 30 days is because people are using their cell phones. So police brutality, aggressive policing is not new. We're just seeing it in real time. What would you say legally is our rights? Can we shoot this? Is this admissible? How do we use it? Because you're seeing social media now as a platform for activism.
I've been saying the entire time, nothing has changed except for the technology. That's the only thing. Yeah. So social media, the other day they tried to black out. They said we wanted to do a blackout of social media. We're not for any blackouts. A blackout stops the real feed, the real television and stuff that we really need to see. So we want people to stay involved and keep taping and keep filming. Yeah. You have to stay away. If an officer tells you, hey, listen, you're getting too close, then if they lock you up too, you're not going to be recording anymore. So back up a little bit. And if something happens and they do arrest you for doing something like that, call us. Yes. Because we'll get you out. And we'll definitely get that film and use it to help whoever was being brutalized at that time.
I gotta do this very quickly because we're on live. I need you to give me your knee-jerk response, reaction, thought. Would you have taken your clients to the White House today?
No.
Okay.
And it's a situation where I just don't think that it's at a point right now where we have a solution ready yet to put it out there. Yes. As if this is going to end it all. I think that all of us need to continue forming the exact answers because there's loopholes. You can say no more chokeholds, but then there's a line in there, unless needed for X, Y, and Z. Right. You've got to close those loopholes. Right. And I didn't hear anything about qualified immunity ending, which is why this happens. Right. And I didn't hear anything about a direct definition of when you can kill somebody.
I love it. So there are people watching. How can people get in touch with your law firm or you all, if you can share your contact?
Stewart Trial Attorneys, soon to be Stewart and Miller next year. You can give us a call, but mainly, like I said, social media. Yeah. It's cstewart@stewarttrial.com and on Instagram, ChrisStewart_ESQ. Yeah.
And they can just reach me at JMillerESQ on Instagram. Yeah. We check that one 24/7, 7 days a week.
Very good.
Let me television.
Yeah, clearly. Let me say to you on behalf of the larger community, thank you, gentlemen, for what you are doing and lending your voice, and really, as I see it, doing ministry in the courtroom and protecting those who don't have a voice for themselves. Know that you've got an army of the body of Christ praying for you, and we're standing on the wall with you. Thank you, and we'll be monitoring as things progress, and please know that we're on the front line fighting with you. Jonathan and Tiffany.
No matter what's happening in our lives, we're always given a responsibility to give God thanks, to give him praise, to honor him because he's a magnificent God. And so we're giving him praise right now because he's good. That's reason enough to praise him. Come on. Oh, give thanks, unto the Lord. Just because he's good. He's good. Let's sing it together. Oh, give thanks, unto the Lord, for he is good. Yes, let's do it again, everybody. Oh, give thanks, unto the Lord, for he is good. Yes, he's so good. Oh, give thanks, unto the Lord, for he is good. Let's do the next part, everybody. He is worthy. Yes, he is, for he is good. I'm grateful that the Lord is good. He's worthy. I know that he I'm so grateful tonight. He is worthy. Yeah. So worthy. He is good. For he is good. Hallelujah.
He is worthy because he is good. The old people used to say he's been better to us than we've been to ourselves. And for that, you ought to be giving him glory, praise, and thanksgiving. Here's the good news. It's not over and we're not through. The best is still yet to come. You know what God always does? He saves the best for last. Not only is my next guest my best looking guest, but is my most brilliant guest. I'm appreciative for her and her fire and her commitment to the advancement of our people, that America would finally have liberty and justice for all. She is no stranger. Unless you have not paid your cable bill in 25 years, you don't know this guest. But even if you've had to put a hanger on your television with aluminum foil, you've got to know. I'm thankful to have with us the illustrious, the honorable Judge Hatchett. Thank you so very much for.
It is my privilege to be here.
Thank you.
My privilege to be
Thank
here.
you so very much.
Thank
Let me thank you for a life and a legacy of being a voice and being a light in dark times. And what people don't know is that you are consistent when there is no camera, that there is no jib, there is no crew, but this is what you do. It's a part of your life work. And I want to commend you and thank you for that. She
That
is,
means so much to me.
Oh, no,
Thank you.
absolutely. We are just coming back from Minneapolis, Minnesota for the memorial service of George Floyd. But you were in Minneapolis and know it well.
I know it well.
Yeah.
Tragically, I know it all too well.
Yes.
Because in July of 16, it will be literally 4 years next month, I was there with Philando Castile.
Yes.
And because we've had so many, Pastor, I have to remind us that that's the one where the girlfriend live streamed her boyfriend being shot.
Yes.
And her 4-year-old daughter was in the back. And it was horrible. I mean, it was just horrible. But yet again, but for the technology, he would have been one more black man dead on the side of the road. And people are always shocked because there had never, ever, ever been an indictment. I didn't say found guilty. I said even charged a police officer for shooting someone in the entire state of Minnesota. And so it just reminds you of how much we have to do and how far we have to go. And so I spent months doing not my side of the case, because my side was a civil case, but the criminal side, just being the watchdog, meeting with the FBI, meeting with the U.S. Attorney, going all the way to Loretta Lynch in Washington, D.C., to get a special prosecutor, to get someone cross-deputized in that case. Why is that important? Because at least that's the precedent that then will help for the conviction that we are now looking at with George Floyd.
I want you from both a judge's bench, from a lawyer's seat. I want you to walk us through where we are in this legal process. Outside of many of us just seeing reruns of Law and Order, we got no idea. So tell us where we are in this process.
Well, I will tell you, first of all, the framework has to be understood that rarely ever is a police officer even charged. And even fewer are ever found guilty. Why is that? Because years ago, back in the 80s, there was a Supreme Court decision, U.S. Supreme Court decision, I'll try to just make this succinct, that basically said that if an officer was reasonably thought, now that's the key, reasonably thought that his life or the life of someone else was at risk, that he did not have to shoot to maim somebody. He could use lethal force. That means deadly force. What does that say? They say, well, you have to look at how the officer thought about it. And we saw that in some cases where the kid only had a cell phone. And he says, well, I thought it was a gun. And you say, most people stop me and ask, but Judge, why can't we just shoot him in the leg or the arm? Why do we have to shoot to kill? Because the Supreme Court has allowed police officers to use that standard. And until we change that in this country, and until officers are held accountable in this country, we will continue to see what we're seeing. That was not reasonable force.
Wow.
That happened. We saw George Floyd die in front of us. He was not posing a threat. We have seen it over and over. But the Supreme Court has said, if you're a police officer and you think your life or someone else's life is at risk, you can shoot to kill. What kind of sense does that make?
None.
Makes no sense.
So the Supreme Court was supposed to hear a case this week.
Yes.
And it got stopped. Tell us about it, please.
Okay, let me see if I can say it without cursing.
All right, as best you can on Christian television.
On Christian television. Yes. No, but seriously, what happened is that this week, in fact, Monday of this week, the Supreme Court refused to hear the case on sovereign immunity, qualified immunity. Those are fancy words. It just means that a police officer shoots somebody, well, you can't sue him. You can't sue him. You can't sue him.
Wow.
And that went up to the Supreme Court to be heard to challenge that. And you know who wrote the decision for the Supreme Court not to hear it?
Who?
Clarence Thomas.
No way.
I promise you.
Not even to hear the case.
Wouldn't even hear it. Wouldn't even hear it. I'm talking about an opinion. I'm talking about, he said, we aren't going to even hear the case. And that means that the Supreme Court will not, and that was our opportunity to say, you can't stand behind these shields of sovereign immunity. There are police departments that say you cannot sue us. Young man brutally beaten right here in Atlanta. And they're saying, well, no, Judge, wait a minute. You know, Fulton County Sheriff, no, because we have sovereign immunity. Well, that is not right. Because as long as there are these shields, and someone described it as bubble wrap,
yes,
you know, around them, layers and layers legally, it is not going to get us a system that's just in this country, Reverend.
It looks like there are almost three races, black, white, and blue.
Yes.
And as we're moving into this election cycle, we're just 4.5 months away from the next election.
Yes.
How critical do you think police reform is going to be in this presidential election?
Absolutely. It is going to be so important because we have got to support an administration that will get it done. Now, today, briefly, we saw the press conference with President Trump, right? And he said, which is a lie, because I want everybody to understand this is a lie. He said that President Obama did nothing in this area. That's not true. He did, but Attorney General Sessions, before he was let go, dismantled a lot of that. And so what I want people to understand that it's important not just who's in the White House, but who controls both chambers of Congress and who gets to appoint the Supreme Court justices, and who gets to appoint the Attorney General. This would be a different conversation now if we had been able to keep some of the things that Obama put in place when he was president. So don't lie on my president. You know, don't lie on him now. You know, don't lie and say he didn't do it. Be truthful and say, no, your Attorney General dismantled a lot of what he had done.
Judge, what would you challenge all over the country, whether you're in Topeka, Kansas, Plano, Texas, whether you're in Champaign, Illinois, what would you challenge churches to be doing in this season? Because this is a real critical moment for the whole nation.
Yes, and I think it's a tipping point, and we historically have relied on churches.
Yes.
That has been the cornerstone for our community, and we need churches to be that more than ever, but we've got to get people registered. Then we've got to get them to polls. I'll send it to you when I get back to my office. I'm going to send you so you can use it, the numbers of states where we lost and by how much, and the number of black folk who didn't vote.
Wow.
Right? that is, it is absolutely unacceptable. I'm not talking about black folk who couldn't vote. I'm talking about black folk who were registered to vote but never voted. And so we will look up like we did in 16 and go, what happened? And we can't avoid that. Why is that important? We have Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who is way up in age.
Yes.
And we have to pray for her health. But we have some older Supreme Court justices, and those are going to come.
Yes, yes.
And we have to have someone who will make those kind of appointments that will have justices who are fair. Why? Because they're on the bench for life.
Yes.
Right? So that having been said, now I'm all concerned about what's happening and, all of that in the nation. But do we know who's on our school boards? Do we know who the prosecutors are?
Yes.
Do we know who's on the bench? Because some folk on the bench don't need to be there, just like some prosecutors don't need to be there.
Right.
And school boards control so much of what happens to our children. And our children are dropping out of school. We'll talk about that another time, but at an alarming rate. So I'm saying all these elections are important, and we have to pay attention. Police chiefs are appointed by mayors.
Right.
So let's be clear about what we're doing.
You were at a time one of the highest ranking black woman for Delta.
I was.
And I want you to talk about what is corporate responsibility to civic change.
Yes.
Because now Starbucks is giving out T-shirts. Now the Oscars are reevaluating all of their awards.
Yes.
What is the
NFL? Corporate America.
Yes.
Well, it is a serious responsibility. But I want people to be very clear and systematic about where this money is going.
Yes.
In the scheme of things, I think Starbucks, for instance, has good intentions, but T-shirts not going to change anything.
Right.
It's just not.
Right.
So what are you doing with your employees? What are you doing to provide scholarships for young people who are working there part-time?
Right.
What are you doing to open up and not just give lip service to these major corporations who are saying, oh my God, I didn't know we had systemic racism, but every direct report in your office is a white man.
That's right.
See, I know what I'm talking about because I've been on three Fortune 200 companies in this company on this board. So I know what I'm talking about that. And I was at Delta. I was not only the highest ranking black woman, I was the highest ranking woman of color worldwide. So I saw everything.
Yes.
And there is one thing to say it. It is another thing to get it done.
I love it. I'm appreciative for your wisdom, for your counsel, and even for your patience. And I want you to know that we are lifting your arms up.
Thank you.
As well as extending prayers to your mom. Is how old?
Yes, she is 98 years old.
What an amazing blessing.
Yes, it has been a blessing. And I also will say that, we stand ready to fight. I took on the Philando case because I have to stand in the gap.
Oh, wow.
And that's why I started a national law firm right here in Atlanta. We've got to do that. We've got to be on it.
How can people get in touch with your law firm?
TheHatchettFirm.com, or you can call 844-HATCHETT, HATCHETT, 24 hours. And I'm all on social media.
We are not going to bury the hatchet. We're going to let the Hatchett Law Firm live because the works that you have done speak for you. I'm grateful for every single one of you who have shared with us on this day. I want you to know that the race isn't given to the swift, nor to the strong, but to those that endure to the end. I keep saying to you that we are going to prosper even in the middle of a pandemic, that God's going to flourish us even though it looks like there is a drought. There's a bright side somewhere. You got to believe that if God is for us, who can be against us? I am still dizzied and reeling from the fact that on Tuesday we've got yet another funeral of a young man who should still be alive, who should still be going on with his life. Just 27 years of age, senselessly killed on his way to his 8-year-old daughter's birthday. I want to challenge you, hear me on this day, that we're not just hearers of the word, but that we are doers also. I'm grateful that we're broadcasting live on the Word Network and appreciative for those of you who are engaged via social media. Would you please, I want you to give a gift of $27 on this day. How it is that you can do it through Cash App, through Givelify, text to give, even on our own secure website at newbirth.org. I want you to help us to do the work of ministry. Let me underscore that on Saturday, we're going to be blessing 8,000 people with free groceries. Any person you know who is in need of food, dealing with food insecurity, send them to New Birth. All they've got to do is pop their trunk. We want to be a blessing to them. I want you to know that I'm praying for you, and I want you to know that even while I'm praying, that the angels in heaven are warring for you, warring for your family, warring for your finances, and warring for your future. I want to pray for you. Good and gracious God, I pray for the person in whom I'm talking to in this moment. I want you to meet their unspoken needs. I want you to help them to find what they're seeking after. I want you to open every door that they have been knocking on. I pray that you will respond to what they have been asking for. And I do it in the name of Jesus, our sovereign Lord, our conquering King, and our returning Redeemer. It's in his name, Jesus of Nazareth, we pray. Amen. Please know that I love you. I'm praying for you, and I can't wait to see you on Sunday. You ought to be joining us in worship, albeit virtually, right on newbirth.org. Something good is going to happen to you. Stay tuned and watch God do great things.